Hello and welcome to another Modest Musings. My name is Fear Dragon, and today, first of all, I want to say, should have been, if all goes according to schedule, and don't mess up my release schedule, should have been the first day of DreamHack Valencia, WCS Valencia, where I got my first premiere commentary gig. Yay! This is, of course, being recorded in advance, since I have my nice little green screen setup and everything. But I want to talk about a topic that is going to be sort of related to my first premiere gig at Valencia, which I'm super duper excited and happy to announce. Have been announced a week ago or something. But it's the idea of working with your idols. So, I'm a simple man. I worshipped the people who were at the top of StarCraft. I wasn't really ever one to be really into the whole celebrity scene for actors or musicians or anything like that. I definitely had role models that I looked up to, but most of the time they were people that I think were very directly a part of my life. My dad is a huge role model, my martial arts instructor, one or two other people. But for the most part, it wasn't really until StarCraft became a big part of my life that I really started developing role models that weren't really directly already a part of my life. People like Day 9, people like DJ Wheat, a lot of these really big name people. And it's a very odd thing when you start working with or having to interact, you start developing a relationship after you've created these more personal relationships with the people that you kind of look up to, people that you consider role models. Um, I think one of the weirdest experiences I had was when I originally just had that kind of distant, man, I really respect you and look up to you in a lot of ways. For Day 9, of course, having watched him since I think like 2009, 2010 or so, even from like Brood War days, and just loving not just his enthusiasm, but his philosophy on life and happiness and just being happy, his positivity, I think rubbed a lot of people kind of the right way. Really inspired a whole generation of StarCraft fans that I think were just generally more positive in life in general. Very, very positive impact, I think, on my life. But when he finally, I actually asked him if he would cast with me the Breakout Invitational a few years ago. It was a very surreal and weird experience. In Control, I had the exact same experience with a man that I had watched for so many different tournaments and stayed at the games and everything. And then suddenly he was going to come cast with me. It was such a weird feeling. And I think that there's something that I realized, and I'm really glad that I had those experiences because I think it's going to be helpful for something like Valencia, because I've gone through this experience with so many people. I've gone through it with Maynard. I went through it with Tempo, Pig, all sorts of other people. And it's when you look up to someone too much, it's hard to have an equal level relationship when you start working together. Uh, my cast with Day 9, my cast with In Control, I think that as much as I very much enjoyed doing them, I think I was just constantly shitting the bed the entire time. I think that they weren't actually very good casts. They weren't very high quality casts from my end. They were great from there, and they carried the cast as professional commentators are wont to do. But unfortunately, if you constantly just have this awe and reverence around them, even on that direct relationship on a broadcast and you're talking with each other, it creates a very weird dynamic, which I think can also make the other person feel somewhat uncomfortable. And it takes getting used to not think that way about the people that you look up to, especially if you're in my situation where these are the people, besides, of course, again, I mentioned that I have personal relationships with the role models in my life already, like my dad. Obviously, I have a relationship where I talk with him normally and all that good stuff. Same thing with like my martial arts instructor and everything, but there's still a bit of a seniority difference in how you interact. And there, of course, it's still okay to have that sort of seniority difference. I still am probably always going to give a bit of seniority difference to someone like, for example, In Control or DJ Weed. They just have so much more experience than me in general in broadcasting and esports and a lot of different aspects of life, just being older than me in general. But it's something that does take some getting used to create a balanced relationship with those people and not to have things be so one-sided, not to make it awkwardly, just this kind of reverence that you have for someone. And that's something that I feel like I've had to work pretty hard on to get over for myself. I think that I am almost at that point. I feel like I'm maybe in a good place for Valencia. Maybe talking about this will make this super duper obvious that I'm not over it or something like that during the broadcast. I have no idea what's going to have happened already since I guess day one has already been underway. By the time this releases, it'll probably still be during the midst of day one. But yeah, it's a very weird thing that and a weird problem that I never really expected to have. But it's also this almost somewhat frustrating idea that once I do balance that out and I start developing more personal relationships. Of course, I feel like I'm good acquaintances or, good friends with some of them. Like, of course, Rotterdam, I still have a little bit of that reverence for, but I think I've interacted with him enough. I've been able to cast with him and just talk with him enough now that I feel sort of more in an even kilter relationship. Of course, like Tempo, I feel the same way. Like, originally had that reverence. Eventually, just through sheer raw amount of hours interacting with him, kind of gotten over it a little bit and feel like a more balanced relationship. I still have a lot of that respect for him. I'm a huge fan of Tempo, for example, or Rotterdam or Maynard, but I think just interacting with them enough is really helpful. There's still some people who I've interacted with in smaller degrees, like In Control, Caleris, I've interacted with a little bit. Todd, I've definitely interacted with, like, kind of, he's probably the in-between middle zone. I think those are going to be, like, the challenges for me, is figuring out how to get my mindset straight for... It sounds weird to say developing chemistry, but that's normally something you just think, oh, it just happens, right? But I don't think it's always that simple. I think you do have to put in some work sometimes when you've created weird mental relationships for yourself with people. But anyways, thought that was kind of an interesting topic, and hopefully you guys enjoy that. It was a topic that I really would not have thought about until it really started happening to me, and I started actually working with my idols in StarCraft, which, of course, I'm blessed and happy for, but also it's its own little struggle that, again, never would have anticipated. Anyways, that is going to be it. Be sure to catch twitch.tv/StarCraft for the WCS Valencia cast. I will be there casting all sorts of awesome people. We got people like Neeb, Kelazor, True, Optimus, Jon Snow, my boy, Probe, Snoot, a Laser, Haas, all kinds of awesome players. But yeah. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you guys next week. Probably next week, I think the big thing that I'll end up doing is I may end up doing a big recap of Valencia, and I'm sort of debating doing a my life in StarCraft video that everybody else does. I feel like this is kind of my big point where I get my first premiere gig. It's sort of something I've been thinking about doing for a while, but I don't know how much interest there is in that. I don't know. Actually, yeah, if you would be interested in seeing that, please let me know, and I might do that, or I might just do a general recap of my first premiere commentary gig experience, talk about everything that I'm allowed to talk about at least. And yeah, we'll see you guys next week.